So Northern Bay College, we're just like Benalla is here, we're a merge of 9 schools. Benalla wasn't quite that size. We were 9 schools, primaries and secondaries, that merged 5 years ago. We're in our 5th year now, merged to form one college. So not only we prepped Year 12, we've also got a kindergarten on one of our sites. We've also got a childcare centre, we've also got a family centre, and also got a young parents program as well. So it's interesting to listen to Joe's presentation too. So we're in 3214, we're in Geelong, we're in Caraya-Norlane, suburbs of Geelong. One of the most disadvantaged postcodes in Victoria. We're situated close to the bay. We call ourselves Northern Bay, but we're actually a little distance from the bay. And we're not north of the bay either, we're actually west of the bay. 5 campuses, 4 of them are identical, except in terms of the size. They're fairly close to each other. I'm based in the middle campus and the 9 to 12 campus in the middle. And it would only be 1 to 2k maximum to each of the campuses from there. So they're very close geographically. 4 of them are prep to 8s and one is a 9 to 12. So the structure's the same, the size and the level of need just changes. Even though it's in one postcode, in one area, there's a significant difference between them all. Teller Street, our P8, that one down the bottom right-hand corner, that's got an SFO, so if you're in education, school, family, occupation, that's 0.9. Disadvantage is measured in schools, so I think where you get the additional funding comes in about 0.5 or 0.6. Yep, something like that, so significantly disadvantaged. So what we see is that we have very low income families, very early school leavers, long-term unemployment, generational unemployment, low birth rates. We've got a young parents access program, so we've got about 16 girls that are accessing our school program with kids in the childcare centre. And lots of psychiatric admissions, very high. I think we're about the 4th postcode in Victoria for prison admissions, and a whole lot of health issues as well. Year 12 completion rate, so we're running at 23%, so quite low. A concern that only half our population, that 20 to 24-year-old age group, have actually completed Year 12. So when we talk about aspirations and wanting the very best for our kids, it's fairly hard when the parents are unemployed and their parents have been unemployed and probably their grandparents have been unemployed. And on top of that, they haven't completed Year 12. So to finish Year 12 is not really an aspiration. So we've been working since, as I said, we're in our 5th year now. We've been working around building aspirations from day one. But it's okay to do that with kids, and that's a big effort with kids, but to do that with parents as well, so parents accept that their kids are going to do a whole lot better if they actually complete Year 12. If we have a look at the measure of disadvantage, this is when we started as a college. So we're in the bottom quartile, of course, you'd expect 25% of your families and your population to be there. In 2011, we had 46%, so nearly half our families are in the bottom quartile. And then in 2014, last year, that's risen to 76%. So 3/4 of our families are now in the bottom quartile. And only 1% in the top quartile. Significant disadvantage, but we don't talk about disadvantage. In fact, if you come and visit our school, you actually won't see the disadvantage at all. You'll actually walk through there and it'll look like a very middle class school. We've had about 3/4 of it has been rebuilt. Kids are in new uniform. The teaching and learning, we've recruited the right people. We've talked about from day one, getting the right people and the right work. We work with a lot of research. John Hattie worked with us for a bit over 2 years to get an instructional model in place. We put a lot of money into building staff capacity. So you walk through there now and you won't see the level of disadvantage. But it's just good to know, what we work with and where we've come from. So there we are. As I said, 75% of our school has been rebuilt. It's predominantly in flexible learning spaces, so not open classrooms, which I taught at in the 70s in the western suburbs of Melbourne, which would be areas like this here. These are flexible spaces, there are seminar spaces, there are small tutorial areas, there are areas where teachers can work one-on-one with individual students. So it's a very flexible arrangement. On Census Day we had 2015 kids, which is easy to remember. On 2015 we had 2015 students in attendance. We've got about 330 or 40 staff that we work with, and when we're looking at sexuality, and we're looking at doing that across our college, we were then working with nearly 200 teachers, with about, so it's a significant number of people working. In terms of classrooms, individual groups of children, there's about 90 of those that we're working with. We've got a growing coal population, so a significant number of refugees, new arrivals, and asylum seekers moving into Geelong now, which is really changing the profile. And when we talk about aspirations, these are the families that are really aspirational and really lifting the aspiration levels of our other students as well. We're also got about 140 Koori students, so we were at one stage the largest Koori school in Victoria as well. And we're very much obviously on about intervention. So in addition to what I said around the childcare centre and the young parents centre, we have co-location of agencies there as well. We've got the Ardoc Foundation's with us. The Smith family only work with one school in Geelong, they're based with us. Catholic Care is with us, and we're trying to build up so we have more of those agencies so we become a one-stop shop, very much like Doveton when we visited Doveton a couple of years ago. And significant partnerships that we have. Being the only school in that suburb, the only government school, it makes it a whole lot easier to form partnerships with industry and agencies. And they want to come and talk to us because they can come and talk to a significant number of staff at the one time. Some of these are formal partnerships and some are in MOUs and some aren't. So there's just a list of some of the ones that we're involved with. And the terrific thing is a lot of these people actually come to us and want to partner with us. So in my years of teaching in the past, I've always had to go and knock on doors, talk to other people and try to encourage them to come and talk to us. And a place like Viva Energy, which was Shell, you know, if you're dealing with the 9 schools we had before and they get 9 applications for support and funding and work with us, some point in time that they've got to make a choice what they do. When you're the only school, I find they come knocking on our door. Because we have got that whole range. We've got kids from 6 weeks of age right up to about 23, because we work with some young mums who are not engaged in a school program but engaged in another program that I'm hoping I'll get time to talk about and show you, at least show you a DVD at the end of that. And just a list of some more partnerships, and particularly too with our tertiary providers. So our mantra is what we're on about a pathway. We're on about providing that opportunity for kids to move then into either employment or further education. We've got a trade training centre on site as well. $11 million went into building that in our first year. So we can give kids the opportunity to go in through a vocational side or in through a university, in through Deakin or in through the Gordon. So a really good relationship with Deakin, and the Education Faculty actually call us a campus of Deakin University, because we've got kids as young as year 6 that are accessing programs, spending time out at Deakin University, out at Warren Ponds or at the waterfront. So there's our mission. Obviously we just want to do the very best for our kids. We don't believe our kids are any different than kids anywhere else in Victoria. When we measure their non-verbal intelligence, we find that's a normal distribution. But when they come to us, they're a good 2 to 3 years behind developmentally. So we're doing a whole lot of work there to try to find out what it is. We'll have a report a wellbeing report in June. So we've got money from Give Where You Live, a philanthropic group in Geelong, and we've got Good Beginnings, if anyone knows the work of Good Beginnings. So they're actually working with us, developing this wellbeing report. That's a gap analysis. It'll tell us what it is that our kids aren't accessing and what our families are not accessing between birth or even pre-birth right through to when they come to school. What's happening in those 5 years, or those 5 years, 9 months, that our families are doing the wrong thing or not accessing the right services, or the right services are not there for them. There's no reason why our kids should be failing. So we want to build up that sense of hope that we can really make a difference. So we've got very inspirational teachers. I'm still there and I should have retired, and Deb at breakfast said, when are you going to retire? I reckon every time I meet someone they say, when are you going to retire? It's really hard to retire when you're in a really exciting place and you're beginning to make a difference. And we've got our values, and our values are really ingrained. They're really easy to remember, being core values. So the acronym spells the values of collaboration, outcome, respect and equity. Any of our staff could tell you that, even when we do written reports at the end of each semester. We'll actually have a continuum whereby we'll rate, there'll be statements under each of those, we actually rate the students. So in terms of respect, there'll be 3 respect statements, where your child is in relation to those. So you can see the enormity of the job that we had in front of us. So we're dealing with a lot of staff. And what we wanted to have, and this was the first thing we did, of all the things we've done, and we're doing that many things now that sexuality education is just what we do, and we don't think too much about it. In fact, I had to email the coordinator yesterday and just say, how's the sexuality education going? Because I'd hate to come up here and spruik about it and then find out that actually it stopped 2 years ago. Pleased to find out it's running in semester 2, so it's not happening at the moment. But it's just a part of business, and I don't think about it until someone says, like this, you come up and spend a day in a beautiful place like Benalla and talk about something. It's just what we do, so it's just a part of that. So we wanted to build a sustainable sexuality program that went from prep right through to year 10. So where did it start? I was actually principal of one of the primary schools at the time, and my school council meeting in 2009 said, what's happening around sex ed? We haven't had anyone come in and do it to the kids. We think it's really important, we should do it. So I then had some discussions with Bowen Health. Then a neighbouring school, one of the 9 schools, a neighbouring school then at their school council meeting at the same time raised the same question. So we had these 2 schools then talking to Susan Parker at Bowen Health. Out of that came the beginning of forming a group around sexuality education and what that's going to look like, and not a program delivered by people and nurses who would come in and do that, but delivered by the classroom teachers. Then in 2010, we then merged the 5 primary schools, then merged to form 1. And the other schools then, who then became campus in Northern Bay, they too became very interested and wanted to be a part of this. Then by 2011, when we had the official merger, we had everyone wanted to be on board with it. So I guess the starting point, which made it really easy for us and really easy for me, is it came from the parents, so the parents wanted it. And then secondly, where we were going to trial it and do it in just one campus, all the other campuses wanted as well. So it really came from that grassroots level. There's some baseline data. We're really lucky to have Deakin on board. So we had Deb, who'll be talking this afternoon, and Lynn Harrison. They're a part of this. And there's quite a detailed report. I think you're referring to this afternoon, depending what I say now, right? So you can read it up there. So teachers were significantly concerned about the lack of knowledge they had, particularly when they were actually going to deliver the program. It was really interesting. I went along to the first training session, which was run by Family Planning Victoria, where we had to form a line, a continuum, and they throw a statement out there around your comfortability, if there's such a word, for you actually teaching this part of the curriculum. And it was really interesting to see that spread from people who said, yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that, right down the other end, and people said, no, I wouldn't want to have nothing to do with that. And then to come back at the end of the training to see people clustered up the right-hand side, that they felt they had the capacity to actually deliver all aspects of the sexuality program. Go back one. So when the students were asked, so the students felt that they wanted to learn about love, and being close was really important to them. So as you know, it's around relationships, whereas you get times, the paper will pick things out and other people pick things out and just look at the sexual ed aspect of it. Our parents were generally really supportive, particularly when it's driven by them. So we've had no issues with parents. I was talking to Paul and Nicole before about people that choose not to do the program. We don't have anyone that chooses not to do it. We just do it. It's in the curriculum, and it's just done. We don't advertise the fact it's on. We've got all our information on our website, and parents can check that. But it's not an opt-in, opt-out. It's what we do. It's in the OSVALs, it's in the curriculum, and we teach it accordingly. So overwhelmingly, we had the students, we had the staff, and we had the parents then saying, a comprehensive sexuality education program is what we need to do. So there's a little bit of work in that first year before we started the program. Building that staff capacity that I mentioned before. Developing those partnerships. So Bowen Health was the initial one, then Family Planning Victoria became involved, and they helped with the training aspect of that, and then Deakin University. And then using our school nurses, because we've got 4 secondary school nurses, they're a part of that program as well. Finding the resources, coordinating the project, getting a communication program happening, and then involving our community engagement groups. Our community engagement group, they met. Susan Parker from Bowen Health came to each one of those meetings initially and talked about the work that we were doing, and they were very well attended. So we built the staff capacity. We had to build that school support system. There had to be the training. We had to train the key people in our learning communities. So in our campuses in the Prep to 8s, we have broken into 3 communities in their flexible spaces. So Prep to 2s all work in one big flexible area. Then you leave that building and go into a 3 to 5. Then you leave that building and go into a 6 to 8. There's a leading teacher who looks after each of those. So we had to train our lead teachers around this. We need to have that peer support structure for when we change staff. And we need that local area support that we got through the different organisations. Obviously had to engage the community with it and make sure they were on board and they could see that it was just a part of what we do. And even our website had that social marketing aspect of it, so parents could ask questions through the Facebook pages around the work we were doing. So what does it look like? As I said before, it sits within the curriculum. It's not a bolt-on, it's not outside, it's not something we do 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. It's a part of the work that we do. Kids don't see it as being anything different than doing maths or doing English or doing our inquiry learning. It's sequential. That goes right through from prep to year 10, and there's no repetition of the work that we do. It's driven by the staff, so I don't micromanage it. As I said, I'd send an email to see what was still happening. So it's just driven by staff and it just happens. Timetable into regular learning, delivered by classroom teachers, I mentioned before, and it's just what we do at Northern Bay. There are certain preconditions, so if you're looking at introducing sexuality education into your schools, and I'm sure Mansfield would have done the same thing, can't do anything without leadership support. So if your leadership's not supporting this, then it's not going to happen. They won't see it as a priority. It's got to identify address an identified need, and there was a need. As mentioned before, our parents are saying, this is something we need to do. Are we going for time? Good. Grassroots, if it can come from the grassroots rather than the top-down, done-to type model, it's going to work a whole lot better. Because teachers are very, very busy. And they've always said they're busy. I've been teaching for 45 years. If you had asked me 45 years ago, I would have said that I was busy, but I actually wasn't busy at all 45 years ago. I thought I was working flat out. And I was home at 4 o'clock. I get home now at 7 o'clock. I'm at work at 6:30 at night and I do my emails at 11 o'clock. Now I think I'm busy. If I taught for another 40 years, I probably think I wish I was back in the 2015s when life was easy. So teachers will always say they're busy, and they'll always say, no, this is an extra, this is an add-on. So it's got to be driven by the staff and to come from that grassroots level. You need multiple drivers. If it's just one person driving it within a school, or in terms of other agencies that are working, then it's less likely to be effective. Obviously you need parent support and you need some staff goodwill. A whole regeneration is around staff goodwill to give up the way they were doing things before. I had a mandate as a new principal to come in there that and a lot of the regeneration work happened before me. Was to do things, and I talked about doing things different and better, because what we did in the past didn't work, so I've got to do it different and better. And we can't do different and better unless we have staff goodwill. Really important, and it's probably harder in a small school where you're competing with lots of other schools in terms of getting those other outside support. But for us, partnership support was really important. Without Barwon Health, without Deakin University, without Family Planning Victoria, it would have been very difficult for us to get it off the ground. I mentioned before about not being a bolt-on. I've got strong leadership down there twice. Got to be built on a solid research basis, and that's where Deb's work's been terrific with Deakin University. And even my email to the lead teacher that's running this program, and she's getting the 5 campuses together and the teachers together next week to plan semester 2, is there's been a few teachers coming in and some of those saying, well, what's the relevance of this? I'm really busy, how does it fit in? And she said, all I need to do is go back to the 3214 data, show them what the data is actually saying, and that shows the need for sexuality education. And we were really lucky that we had Evaluate over time, and Deakin University are doing that post-evaluation now. So as I said, I've talked about the staff training with Family Planning Victoria. They had 5 days of training, so that's a generous amount of training that we got. That's difficult for other schools to manage, and at no cost as well for us, which was terrific. We just didn't have any money, so therefore it wouldn't have happened otherwise. So we had 3 teaching staff from each campus, so 1 per those learning communities I mentioned before, and a couple of wellbeing staff and a couple of nurses were involved in that program as well. So what do we have now? We've got 40 staff that have been officially trained. All the training now is done by existing staff members, so we don't need to rely on Family Planning Victoria to do that anymore. And the new staff are then mentored and supported by our current staff. So obviously we want sexuality education to have a really positive outcome, then it's got to be achieved in that partnership. And it's got to be open and transparent conversation with the accurate information that we actually give our kids. Mentioned before, it goes right through to year 10, and it's based on research, not just a good idea, so it shouldn't be something that will come and go, it should be something that will stay there forever. There's certainly not many people that are doing it. I mentioned to listen to the Mansfield story in a moment. I don't know if there's many schools that do it, particularly prep to year 10. That's where we're sitting now. This is our thanks to our people who have been a part of our partnership. And just some of the feedback from some of our parents is really good. Really important to start back in prep and then go all the way through, so we're building on that over the 11 years they do it. So a big picture, I think one of the most important education tools we can bring to our kids is what one parent actually said around that program. This is just an example of something else that we're doing in the area. Joe was talking before about fertility rates and teen pregnancies. And there's another example of a partnership as well. So what happened is that I had Shell, before they closed or merged and sold out to Viva Energy, came to me and said, if we gave you $40,000, we gave each year for 2 years, and we gave $40,000 to the Goulburn and $40,000 to Northern Futures. Now, Northern Futures work with our most disengaged kids from school, or those are less likely to get employment. So they're on the scale of 1, 2, 3 kids in terms of their intelligence and success at school. They run kids through a 15-week Getting Ahead program, which sort of gets their head in the right spot then to take up employment. They then have a really strong relationship with local employers, and the local employers know you're not getting the brightest kids coming into your employment. You're getting kids, but you're getting kids that are ready to learn, that have been through this program. And they'll need some mentoring and support through that time. And Northern Futures, 12 months after they gain employment, will actually mentor them through that time. The employers know they're getting these sort of kids. These employers are happy to take kids then that can only work certain days, certain times. And big employers like Cotton On is in the northern suburbs of Geelong, and they've got about 600 people they employ just in one part of their operation there. And they'll take these kids knowing exactly what they get, and so will Viva Energy. So 40,000, so Northern Futures, they said, what would you do? And I said, well, we've got a group of girls, young mums that are living independently, that have been kicked out of home. They don't have any networks, they don't have any support networks at all, and they're living by themselves, and they've got one child, and then some are pregnant again with the second one. And here's an opportunity. We don't get funded for these kids, but there's an opportunity here that we can actually do something. So if you give us the money, and we work with the Goulburn, who can provide some access into education, and then with Northern Futures, we end up then with what we call a Northern Bay guarantee. So we actually guarantee these girls, work with us, engage with us, do the programs that we're saying that you should do, and we'll support you and help you and monitor you through that process. We'll actually guarantee employment for you. And we're halfway through that program now, and it's just working terrifically. We'll have a look at the video in a moment just to see that. Listen to the girls' story. These are girls, if we're looking at breaking the cycle, these girls had no hope in terms of getting employment. And now their children are actually seeing them going off to school, studying. We're paying through the 40,000 each of the organisation. We're paying for their course materials. The Goulburn is waiving their fees. Deakin have come on board as well, and we've got one girl that's studying at Deakin. These are girls who haven't been at school, one of them since year 7, and they're now guaranteed employment if they stick with it. So we'll just listen to their story.
I was 14 when I got pregnant, so I had my son a month before I turned 15. So it was some pretty scary stuff, but had a lot of good support, like networks for me, so felt very good and content in my decision to keep my baby.
I fell pregnant at 18. Obviously it was a little bit of a surprise. Don't regret it, will never regret it. She's my life. We had to grow up fast, obviously, and make big choices.
I knew I needed to do the certificate to be able to be a qualified makeup artist, because a certificate 2 definitely won't cut it, and I knew I didn't have the funding. And then when I was told about the initiative that they could help out, I signed up.
We live paycheck by paycheck. Without this opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
It's kind of just made things a lot clearer in what I want. Like we had career counsellors come in and all that type of stuff, which kind of showed you what you actually were looking for.
This is my life now that I'm setting up for, and this is the opportunity it is giving me, is being able to better myself and my daughter.
I want to do this course so I can get back into work and show Lacey Addison that it's, just because you're a mum doesn't mean you can't do things.
In the future, I would like to own my own home with my son, have a good career ahead of me, not just a job but a career, have good financial stability, license, all that type of necessities in life, and just be able to give me and him a nice, comfortable living environment.
That's my job as a mother, to look after my daughter, sort of thing. So that's where I want to head with this, is know that I'm stable in myself and that my life is going to be better for her.
And this is what our plan is for Northern Bay College. We have a Northern Bay promise where we can actually promise employment or further education for all of our kids. regardless, as long as they engage with us. Once we get the data around what the gap analysis are saying, once we do that, see what the barriers are to success, and they work that right through. And we can do that as a prep to 12, and we can do it because we've got that early engagement in those first few years.